What is going on, SoFi fans? Welcome back to Trending Stocks. Today I want to go over some of the latest data points, some of the latest updates from the company, and where I see things going from here. Before I get into any of that though, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. With that, let's get right to it. So currently it is up 1.38%. A lot of volatility though, 938 the low, 967 the high, and that kind of fits within that fib levels. I'll touch on that in a second. It is having a huge amount of volume. So within the first 2 hours of the trading day, 15.3 million shares being traded, 36 is the average. So today is definitely going to far exceed the average. At the time of doing this video though, there isn't anything coming out from the company as far as SEC filings or press releases. So it is just merely following the broader market, as well just some unofficial stuff such as this. So SoFi has been named the best overall student loan refinance company by CNBC. So this is a fairly big accomplishment. And then over and above that though, one additional thing, there was a new analyst rating, initiated rating from Stephens. I'm not sure who Stephens is. I've never really heard of them, but they did give a $7 target. Not necessarily the best, but if you kind of look at the analyst itself, so Vincent, he only has a 45% success rating. So SoFi is one of those weird stocks that when there is a very crappy analyst, such as David from Wedbush, who has a 37% success rating, when they give ratings, it usually causes a lot of volatility. But for instance, if you get a good analyst, maybe a 58% success rating or potentially a 68 that give a $11 target, it doesn't necessarily move as much as I would have assumed. So once again, that's just my own interpretation, but again, this is a update that you need to know. And when it comes down to the upcoming earnings, that is in less than a week. And based on this, it does look like one analyst recently jumped on board. So went from 14 estimates to 15, still at the negative 6 cents for the earnings per share. And then for revenue, as you can see right here, it looks like the analysts have stayed the same, but one analyst recently did turn a little bit more bullish because it previously was 476.2 million for the estimated revenue versus now it is 478.78. So up slightly. So of course that's a fairly good thing, but in both aspects, the revenue and earnings per share, SoFi always does far exceed the analyst expectations. So once again, just be aware of that. So go over some additional data points, including options. So when it comes down to options, currently within the first 2 hours of the trading day, 89% of all the options activity today so far is bullish, but $2.86 million in call premiums being purchased today already versus 355,000 in puts. So based on this, people are anticipating SoFi to continue to trend up. And moving on from here though, looking at this chart shows all the calls, the strike prices, expiry dates based on August 4th expiry date, which will incorporate their Q2 earnings on the 31st. It is anticipated to be very volatile, so anywhere from around the $9.50 to $11 range. So based on this, it doesn't look like many people are anticipating a downtrend as a result of their earnings. So which is one thing that unfortunately does typically happen with SoFi. Even though they have home run earnings, amazing earnings, it usually does trend down for some random reason. And I think in reality, it kind of falls back down on analysts, because analysts, oddly enough, just do not like SoFi, so they find any reason and justification to bring it down. So typically after earnings, you'll see a lot of analysts jump on board and kind of readjust their ratings to be a little bit more bearish, just to bring SoFi down. But that's just my own thoughts, not a financial advisor. You guys always do your own due diligence. Looking right here, big money isn't necessarily getting in as much as they once were, especially over the last couple of days, which kind of makes things kind of questionable because of the volume. So 15.34 million, like I said. So a lot of volume happening on the overall markets, but on the secondary market, not so much. When it comes to, for instance, dark pool, I'll give you guys a quick overview of that just so you guys know. And based on that, there is a lot of volume in that regard. So again, this is probably where the majority of the volume is coming from. And so yeah, dark pool is very much linked to shorting. So this is why some people don't necessarily like the dark pool. So I'll give you guys a quick overview of what shorts are doing, because I think even going into the Q2 earnings, being at, I think, a 16% short interest or whatever it is still fairly too high. Short score is currently 62, utilization is 36.09%. And looking right here, shorts are technically returning 417,000 shares, 15.01% of the free float is being shorted, 119.65 million shares overall are being shorted. So still, like I said, this is just way too high for what actually SoFi does offer. A lot of people are still assuming that it's going to go down. But based on this data today per se, it is optimistic, because the fact that they're returning shares on a green day, it kind of shows that they do feel that big things are coming. And I don't know if it's maybe because of the recent analyst rating from Vincent, most likely not, but still, let me know you guys' thoughts on that in the comments below. And one final thing, just while I'm on here, cost to borrow average is 1.36%, and so that's fairly small. When it comes down to it, what the data points are saying, it looks like the number of retail investors are getting in today. So even though on the secondary market big money isn't necessarily getting in, it looks like retail is. Stochastic is currently at 74, no defined trend, so it's kind of neutral-ish. So if it does go up a little bit higher, that is where it could be perceived as a little bit more overbought. So again, just to factor that in. But a lot of people want to know, where is SoFi heading next? So with it being at $9.62, it is currently between the P and the R1. So kind of doing fairly good in comparison to a lot of other growth stocks. 840 is that next big support. $9.78, which kind of came close to it a little bit at the peak today, or who knows, I actually might surpass it today, but that is the next big resistance. So this is where I do strongly feel leading up until the Q2 earnings, and as a result of their earnings, I do feel that it can get to around between this R2 and the R3. So anywhere from $10.62 to $12 I feel is fairly realistic. And just to put that in perspective, so going back over to Interactive Brokers, it does have $14 as the fair market value, and that was done by Morningstar. I think the last report was on Friday, if I remember correctly. So definitely, I think some big things might be coming SoFi's way, and over the last several earnings, like I've mentioned on my videos, they've really flexed on how much they are developing. Every single quarter, they are showing that they are trying to mitigate their risk to the broader economy and just for fluctuations, and that they are acquiring a lot of good assets for cheap. So that's just my own opinion, of course. Let me know you guys' thoughts on SoFi. Give yourself a shout out in the comments below if you have been buying, selling, holding, what you've been doing with SoFi. Let me know your thoughts on that. On a side note, if you are looking for a lot of good compiled information such as press releases, SEC filings, transcripts from every earnings, and also even just basic conferences, take a look at Seeking Alpha Premium in the description below for a 14-day free trial. So it's very advantageous, especially if you're looking for a little bit more of a deeper dive in some companies. With that said, I appreciate you guys watching, and let's all make a lot of money on SoFi.